Welcome to GC Sidebar, a short and sharp conversation series with leading general counsels about the decisions, the reflections, and the people behind the title. I'm Trista Engel, CEO of Paragon Legal, and today I'm joined by Fabio Bertoni, general counsel at The New Yorker, the iconic magazine behind some of the most influential journalism in the world. Uniquely trained as both a lawyer and a journalist, Fabio has overseen legal review for many of The New Yorker's most significant investigations, and he's also written for NewYorker.com himself. Fabio, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Trista.
Let's jump in. What's one thing you're most focused on for 2026, and why?
There have been a lot of changes in the media law space in the last few years, a lot more pressures. One of my skills as an in-house lawyer is sort of the ability to triage problems and decide which ones I don't have to worry about. But the set of problems that I do have to worry about has certainly expanded in the last year. There was I'm sure your audience knows, there was a FBI raid on a Washington Post reporter's home a couple of weeks ago. Her computers and phones were taken. That's under litigation. Don Lemon was arrested, and another independent reporter was arrested for covering a protest, sort of standard things that reporters do, which feels like an escalation of attacks on the press. And that's in the context of prior lawsuits against ABC and CBS and other press outlets by the administration. So that's really what I'm focused on this year, is sort of trying to anticipate risks, increase risks to our reporters, and putting plans in place to deal with those risks. We are not going to change what we do. We're not going to not report on what we report on, but we need to make sure we're doing it in the safest way possible. So that's my focus for 2026.
That is very sobering in many ways.
Yeah, sorry to start on that note, but that's what I'm thinking about. That's what keeps me up at night.
It really puts into the spotlight how important the work that you do and that the New Yorker does is, and that journalists do across this country. And, many of these conversations, we're talking about AI and we're talking about regulation and we're talking about legal work and all these things that are really important in our industry. But for you, that takes on such a different weight, and it's much bigger than any individual thing. It's much bigger than any one of us, but it's so meaningful and important.
I certainly feel so. I mean, it's why I can work as hard as I do and do the work that I do, because I really care about it, and I do feel it's important. So in some ways that makes my job easier. I don't feel like I'm wasting my days at all.
Absolutely, and it benefits us all, so thank you. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned as a GC?
I think, and this is maybe obvious, but it was really important to me, is the fact that if you are just giving pure legal advice, you're not doing your job. You really need to understand the client deeply and understand what's important to them, and give your legal advice in the context of the broader objectives of the business and the individuals there. So when I was at a law firm, you just run down the law as far as you can and be as precise as you can about the law. Clients in-house don't want to hear half an hour sermon about federalism or Marbury versus Madison. They want to know the answer to their question right then, and you have to provide that question, often in an absence of perfect knowledge and based on the law, but really tailored to what the client needs. And so that's been my real takeaway from my move from a firm to in-house.
It's such an important lesson and can be a hard one to learn, but communicating in a way that your audience will hear and digest, and especially in the context of giving legal advice and business advice, it's really important that they digest and understand and can utilize the message. So that's great advice. What's one career moment that changed your trajectory?
As you noted, I was a journalist before going to law school, and I actually had intended to keep being a journalist, and I thought law school would give me tools to be a better reporter and sort of assess arguments and find information and do research and just be a more informed reporter. But I think in my third year of law school, I did a couple of clinics. I did a housing court clinic and an SSI benefit clinic, and really realized a couple things. I realized I was a better lawyer than I had been a journalist, and sort of felt the immediacy of having a client representing them, solving a problem for them in the moment. So I, showed up at housing court a couple times and stopped evictions, and that instantly made a huge difference in someone's life. Same thing for SSI benefits. I went to ALJ here, an administrative law judge hearing, and argued for benefits and won a case and was complimented by the judge on my presentation. And that was really, for me, a turning point. It really felt like, oh, I can do this thing and I'm actually maybe good at it in some way. And it was just a, instant gratification for my, lizard brain that I was able to achieve something in the moment that mattered.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you found a sense of purpose in the work that has carried through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those were not journalism contexts, obviously, but I've always cared deeply about journalism, so it's great to have a way to combine the two.
Amazing. GCs today have a wide range of resourcing options beyond FTEs and outside counsel. What's your approach to resourcing your legal team?
So I'm very fortunate to be part of Condé Nast, although, the general counsel role here at The New Yorker is sort of independent. I make decisions with the editors and writers here, but I'm able to sort of delegate a lot of things that aren't core to The New Yorker specifically to other folks at Condé Nast or our parent company, which is really helpful so that I can focus on what I need to focus on. I was in-house at American Lawyer Media for years, and that was really a generalist position where I was vetting reported pieces and doing media law, but I was also doing the agreements for the coffee maker and the lease for the office space in Newark and, a million other things. And so here I don't do a lot of that other stuff. I really focus on things that are specific to the New Yorker. That's been really helpful in knowing what I can delegate. And I have a fantastic lawyer who assessed me here at The New Yorker, and really finding talented people and letting them do their job. It's a constant struggle not to micromanage, just because that's my nature, and I think the nature of a lot of lawyers is to sort of be slightly micromanaging. But that's, I think, really the key to being an effective manager, is to let people do their work and not slow them down.
Absolutely. We talk a lot at Paragon about right sourcing, and the way I think about that is finding the right resource to do the right piece of work for the right cost as well. And, when you talk about delegating, that's a lot of what that is, whether you're delegating to a great attorney on your team or you're delegating to a parent company shared service, figuring out how you can put the right pieces of work in the right hands is hugely valuable.
Absolutely.
If you weren't an attorney, Fabio, what would you be?
I guess I would be a reporter or writer. I do love it. I've written several pieces for the New Yorker's website, primarily on legal topics and First Amendment issues. And I realized recently that even though, I've been a lawyer for the past almost 30 years, writing has been a constant through my career. When I was at American Lawyer Media, one of our publications, the New York Law Journal, had I don't know that they still do this, but they had a monthly insert magazine. And I wrote the book review column for that magazine for years. And I've just written other essays for other publications, and all generally nonfiction. Obviously, I can't deny that it's something that I keep being drawn back to. So I guess I would be a writer. But my, big spiritual goal is to be an old Italian man with a tomato garden. So that's what I really want to do.
I see both of those in your future. You are lucky that you are in this unique position where your, alternate career is right next door to you, and you've already dabbled in it a little bit and are clearly well trained for it. And the tomato garden, you can make happen. That's a good dream.
A little tough in New York City, but I'm working.
Yeah. And the bonus question, Paragon turns 20 this year. What's one memory from 20 years ago that still stands out to you?
20 years ago was when I did my first in-house move. I went from law firm to American Lawyer Magazine, and that was really great. It was really exciting to be in-house. getting to know a client. It was surprising too. I remember the first week I was there, the general counsel, I was deputy general counsel, the general counsel came to me and said, "Oh, we have a dispute with one of our subscribers. They don't want to pay the subscription fee for whatever it was." And it was several $100s for the subscription. And I looked at her and I said, "But that can't be worth my time. It's, being used to billing at a law firm, my billables must be greater than this." And she said, No. You're in-house now. Everything is worth your time. This is the business. So deal with it. And that was a real shift in my perspective, is when you're in-house, you kind of have to worry about everything. And there's no, sense of this is beneath me. You have to jump into everything that presents itself, which is great. And that was my introduction to in-house life.
That's wonderful. Yeah, nothing more humbling, huh? Oh, that was really fun, Fabio. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us today.
Thanks, Trista. This is great.
All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of GC Sidebar. Catch more great conversations on our website at paragonlegal.com. Thanks for tuning in.